what up? It's your boy N.I.C. It's been a rough couple days. A rough couple days for myself, and I know many other who share the allegiance of being both a Mets and a Jets fan. The Mets on Sunday completed what was the slowest, most agonizing death for a fan base over the course of a season that you can possibly imagine. They started off the season 20 games over 500, best team in baseball, 40 something and 20 something, and all was well. You felt like this Mets team that got to within 2 games of the World Series last year and brought in Juan Soto and brought back Pete. You thought that this team was going to be able to not just get to the postseason, but make some noise, make it to the World Series. And instead, they just slowly, absolutely imploded over the course of the last, 2/3 of the season? I think it was that. I think it was about a good third and about two bad thirds. It was brutal. It was brutal. I've seen some people compare it to '07 and '08. If you were around for those, you know this was nothing like that. Those were both times where the Mets seemed like it was what happened with the Braves a couple years ago with them coming back at the end of the season. That was closer, but even that wasn't as bad. We're talking about a 7-game lead with 14 to play. And this team instead just continued to have opportunities, but continued to mix in 7 and 8 game losing streaks and continued to consistently have one major problem. That was the thing. There were certain times in the year that we couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. There was other times in the year where we were great at that. There was times in the year where our pitching, especially early, was performing at a much higher level than anybody expected it to. And then there was other times where our pitching was just, you had no idea who was going to be effective on one night. And there was a lot of guys that you could pretty much bet on were never going to be effective, the Helsley of the worlds. And it's just this Mets team all season just never could put it all together. It was very sad and disappointing to watch. I'm somebody who usually keeps it somewhat optimistic. I was on with my guy CP just before the last series of the season against the Marlins, and he asked what my prediction was. And I am so the type of guy who typically would be like, Mets are going to sweep, or the Mets are going to win in 2 out of 3. They're going to make it into the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. And I looked at him and I said, yo, man, I have no idea what this team is going to do. I have no idea how this team is going to play. The Mets in the first game, you go down to Miami, you play against the Marlins, which you know the history. Every Mets fan knows the history. And we play against the Marlins. They do everything. It's their World Series to play spoiler against the Mets. That's all they want to do. That's all that fan base wants to do, the few of them that there are. And that's clearly what the organization wanted to do. They wanted to, gin up as much hype as they possibly could to be able to get a few more dollars out of that fan base and get all those Mets fans in there. The Mets fans, they were going to show up regardless. Down there in Miami, in all sports, we take over their arenas. I wouldn't say in football, but definitely in basketball when it comes to the Knicks versus the Heat, and definitely in baseball as well. And the Mets go down there, and they figure out a way to lose 2 out of 3 to these guys. And it's just, the Marlins have been a better team than us since the All-Star break. There's no ifs, ands, or buts or ways around that. In fact, almost everybody was. I'm pretty sure we had the 4th worst record in all of baseball over that last, quarter of the season, third of the season. And the fact that we were still in a position to get that final wild card spot in the last game of the season shows how well we did and what a good team we were for a great part of this season. But it always seemed like smoke and mirrors because you knew that some of these pitchers weren't going to continue to pitch at the level that they were and weren't going to continue to have the health that they were. We just wasted a terrible, terrible, terrible way for things to go because we wasted a season. We wasted an entire season. We wasted good years from Juan Soto. Started off very slowly. Possibly had some clubhouse issues. We'll talk about that here in a second. But Soto had a good year, man. I mean, his numbers were fantastic overall. He almost reaches the 40-40 club. He adds the stolen base to his arsenal. He's top 3 in walks, home runs, top 5 in RBIs, at least top 10. And we still don't make the playoffs. Pete Alonso. Pete has a huge year. Pete has the type of year that you expect from a guy after he hits that huge, huge home run last year to get the Mets out of the wild card round. We beat Milwaukee. He hits the 3-run bomb, and Pete has statistically a great year. Lindor, 30-30 season. Not his best year. Not last year's Lindor, and he definitely was not as sharp and as solid in the field, but overall, Lindor had a very good year. We wasted it all. We wasted all, and baseball, as I always say, is a game of moments. And what it came down to with this team was they, over and over again, didn't step up in the big moments. Even those guys that I just said had good years, they didn't step up in the big moments. We did not have these signature moments like that team the year before, especially in that last quarter of the season did. I don't know. Maybe we should have brought Iglesias back. I don't know what it is, but this team did not have that magic, and you felt it all season. I tried to lie to myself so many times and say things to myself like, all we have to do is get hot at the right time. But there was never a time after, I don't know, maybe the halfway point that I ever really felt that was possible. Because this team did not have that magic. The 2024 Mets gave you a feeling all the time that they were never out of a game. 2024 Mets could be down by 5 runs in the 7th, and you were like, you never know what could happen. This team, whenever they were down late, they felt dead. And the stats, if you watch the games towards the end of the season, there were always stats getting thrown out there like, well, the Mets haven't won a game to come back from 5 runs or haven't won a game when trailing going into the 9th inning. It wasn't just like I feel this way type of thing. It was crystal clear if you watch this team both in the statistics and with your own eyeballs. They just didn't get it done, man. They didn't get it done. Mendoza, every move he made in 2024 worked out. And when it came to 2025, they all went bad. I like Mendoza. It doesn't matter if I think he should come back or not. It's already been announced that he will come back. The rest of the coaches, that's up in the air, and it should be. Personally, I think that Barnes and Chavez, they got to go. Whether you agree with their philosophy or not, the results that they've had these last couple years, especially with the type of players that they have, they got to go. When you add in the fact that Alvarez went down to the minors and fixed his swing, fixed his approach, needed to go down to the minors to do that, that tells me that Chavez, Barnes, they got to go. And really, this is another guy who I like, who there's no part of me that wants to move on or get rid of him. That would be silly. We don't operate like that anymore. We're a real franchise. Uncle Stevie's got things taken care of. By the way, if you read his apology note, I mean, come on, best owner in sports. But when it comes to the overall construction of this roster, when it comes to really every decision that he made from last offseason through this year's deadline, Stearns had a tough year. You got to keep it real, man. Keep it a buck. Stearns did not have a good year. The boy wonder. I like him. He's a Mets fan. He's, like I said, he's the boy wonder. He's supposed to be the guy. You look at Milwaukee, the sustained success they've had even after his departure. Stearns is good. He's good at what he does, right? He had a tough year. You go back to last year's offseason, it's not like, the Mets went out there, they got all these great players and they just didn't perform or, got hurt or anything like that. No, the Mets brought back Manaea. They did a reclamation project with Clay Holmes. And other than that, they basically said, hey, we're going to rely on what we got here. We think we can get to the next level. When none of those guys, either health-wise or performance-wise, consistently over the course of his season has ever shown that they could be an ace. And you know what? We got some fool's gold at the very beginning of the season because the starting pitching was excellent, even with Manaea being hurt, even with Montas being out. Frankie Montas, the guy who we went out and gave 2 years, and I want to say like $14 million a year, something like that, 13, 14, which I knew that he was hurt. And, I knew that he had shown some promise and had some ups and downs, but there was a lot, I noticed there was a lot of people who were smarter than me who follow baseball a little bit more than I do outside of the Mets. Because admittedly so, I'm a huge Mets fan. I follow baseball, but I don't follow it outside of the Mets like I do follow the NBA outside of the Knicks. So I saw a lot of those people, like I said, who are just more in the know than I am, saying, I don't like this Frankie Montas deal. What are you expecting this guy to be? I'm thinking to myself, hey, if he's going to be fourth or fifth in your rotation, I'll take it. But come on, man. Those people who had those questions, they were proven to be true. And when it comes to those people that had those questions, many of them had the same questions about this Mets starting rotation. Everything I saw this offseason when talking about power rankings, talking about the Mets and projections and prognostications, they all said, is the starting pitching going to be good enough? Or the starting pitching is not going to be good enough. And then when you get into the season and that happens, you got to look at Stearns and say, hey, man, we had championship aspirations. Do we even give ourselves a chance by the guys that we were running out there every 5 days? I think it's a fair criticism of Stearns, even though, like I said, I'm a big Stearns guy. I'm a big Stearns fan. That's a fair criticism. When people criticize after you see the results, that's one thing. When everybody has the same thought before the season even starts, and that's exactly what happens, you got to take a step back and look at that. I give him more criticism for what happened with the starting pitchers than I do with the bullpen. Because that was the thing, is that, hey, we went out, we built this fantastic bullpen, and then we go out and we get, some pretty highly touted, sought-after arms in the trade deadline in Helsley and Soto. We brought back Brooks Raley. We went out and we got Rogers, the Submariner. And other than Raley, none of those guys performed as well as you would like them to. Rogers performed okay. Obviously, he pitches to contact. That contact was finding holes. And speaking of contact finding holes, pause, but another thing when you look at this Mets season and you say it was just a bad luck season as far as the fact that we were never able to get, different aspects going at the same time. Also, The other thing that was terrible luck for this Mets season was, I mean, if you watched, and this is another thing that the stats at one point definitely, illustrated. Yo, the Mets hit so many balls hard right at somebody. At one point, I know during the season, I heard somebody say that they were third in hard hit average, and they were like, overall, like their average was one of the worst in the league. Average with runners in scoring position, absolutely terrible for most of the season. But then all of a sudden, they start doing great in that little piece of the game, but they do it for bits and pieces. There was just so many ups and downs. They had 3 7-game plus losing streaks in the course of a season, and they still had a chance to make the playoffs. Only one team had made the playoffs with 3 such losing streaks in their season, and that was actually the 2006 Cardinals, team that forever broke my heart and ruined what should have been one of the best live sporting events that I ever attended. Yo, man, it's hard being a Mets fan. It really is. It doesn't, the last time we won a World Series was when I was 2. I got pictures, but I don't remember it. I've had this chair for a couple years. I still can't figure out how to make it stay up and not sink. I think it has something to do with me assembling it and not doing something right. But this Mets team, man, it's just, it's kind of like sitting in this chair. You just, every once in a while, you sink. And after all this time, I still can't figure it out. And the Mets still can't figure it out. It's brutal, man. I just don't even, at this point, I really don't even know what to do. All you can do is come back next year. Listen, by February of next year, I'll be hype again. Again, Soto had a very good year. He had a tough start, man, but he ends up having a fantastic overall year. And, being one of the top 3 MVP candidates in the National League. Well, top 4 for sure. You can argue that he's top 4, but he's definitely. I mean, you can argue that he's top 3, but he's definitely top 4, no questions. Great year for him. Pete, big time year, does his thing. The Yankees are currently 1 run away from forcing a Game 3 in this wild card series. They're up 4-3 against Boston, top of the 9th, 2 outs. And yeah, man, this team we really wasted some good years from our big time players. Nimmo had a good year. Nimmo had a good year with the bat. Jeff McNeil, I thought that he was figuring some things out. I thought it was going to end up being a good year for him, but then he just goes in an absolute tank at the end of the season. And, we see the emotional outbursts, which don't really bother me. I don't care. I like the passion, if anything. We see McNeil also making some very uncharacteristic bad throws. I mean, I feel like his throws have just always been solid for all these years. Oh, shit. Is that out? Nope. Warning track. I thought that was a game-tying hit by the Red Sox. I didn't see who was up at bat, but Aaron Judge made the catch in the at the warning track, and there will be a Game 3. I'm not a Mets fan who hates on the Yankees. I'm not. It's not. Listen, I don't hate on the Yankees. A lot of my best friends are Yankees fans. I do hate the Yankees fans who are more obsessed with the Mets. I mean, like all the chatter on Twitter I've seen the last couple of days about, Juan Soto, you bring him over, you don't even make to the playoffs. I think the Soto thing really made a lot of them bitter. A lot of people just I couldn't possibly see it happening, of Juan Soto, leaving the Bronx to come over to Queens. No way I saw that happening. Until even when people were saying it was, they were like, oh, it's possible. I was like, yeah, all right. Until that it had to have been passing. Until that bomb came out, that was real, I did not believe it. And I don't hate on them. I do, I do dislike those people who seem to obsess over the Mets and always have something to say about us. I don't care. I don't know why they would care about the Mets at all. At all. They are, a much more storied franchise, and they were in the World Series last year, and they're back in the playoffs this year. So, hats off to them. But man, it's just a tough season. A real loss of a season, a real loss of my time and everybody else's time. And you just got to see what they can do, coming back next year. Who knows? The defense, man. That's another thing. When the team is playing bad defense, when you're not solid defensively and you're playing bad defense, and it was just the Mets, they seem to do it at all the wrong times. Just in big moments all season. And guys making mental errors. Not a hot one that's hard to deal with. Guys making mental errors. A lot of pitchers, we got to work on our pitchers knowing about covering first. That happened way too often this season, where Pete makes a great diving play and there's nobody there to throw the ball to. Pete with the throwing the ball, I just don't know if that's ever going to get fixed, man. It's been a while. Many people say if Pete's going to come back to the Mets, that he's going to have to accept a role that is a hybrid between first base and being a DH. And I get it. It's hard to get away from the metrics. It's hard to get away from the metrics when it comes to Pete at first base, because when I watch him, I think when it comes to picking the ball, he seems elite to me. He seems like he's got decent range to me. Metrics say he does not. His arm is horrible. He's terrible. It's clearly in his head. His inability to be able to throw the ball hard and straight. Pause again. It's just it's a problem, man. And there was one point this year, at the early in the season, I remember saying to my pops, yo, man, his Pete's, his throws are getting a little better. He's like, yeah, they look much better. Nah. As the year played out, we saw Pete once again throwing up over the lollipops and, throwing the ball in the guys' backs and making wildly inaccurate throws. It's just not his thing, man. It's not his cup of tea. I don't know what can happen. So look, he has to come back. You have to go get him. Get him and Sugar. Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso, they need to be Mets. I can't believe the Pete thing even went as long as it did after the performance that he had this year. Get it done, okay? Both sides. Pete, you know the market. Nobody's going to come out here and give you a 10-year contract. Mets, come out here. You got to give him a little bit for time served. You got to give him a 5-6 year contract, even though the back end of that might not look so great. But at the end of the day, since he's been in, he's been the second best power hitter in the major league since he's been in it. Other than a guy that plays right field over in the Bronx, he has been the second best power hitter in the entire major leagues. He did it last year. He had another monster year. He gives you 38 home runs. Come on, man. 126 RBIs, number 2 in the entire National League. And a homegrown guy, a guy who seems like a great ambassador for the orange and blue, for the uniform. Bring him back. I don't, guys like Salicata, I shouldn't even bring this up, but guys like Salicata that say stupid shit like, trade Francisco Lindor. It's nonsense. What are you talking about? I don't really care about the playoffs that much. I'll pay a little bit of attention to see what's going on with the Yankees, but I'm not even invested in that. I'm not any game, if it's close late, I might tune in. But other than that, I'm not really, I don't care. And one thing that I did notice is, and one thing Stearns needs to notice is, look at what all these big time starters, these aces, did in game 1 of these series. Pitching late in games, throwing well over 100 pitches. Now, the one bright spot for the Mets this year is that we think that we have 3 legitimate starters, at least 2 that can start in the rotation beginning next year, and one other guy who should be there soon after, that being McLean, Sproat, and Jonah Tong. McLean looks like he could be a legit ace in this league. He's young. That's a lot to put on him. Pitchers from year to year, you never know what the fuck you're going to get. But McLean looks like he's that dude. And Sproat looks very good as well. And Tong just needs a little bit more seasoning. And with that being said, we have to go out. We have to sign or trade for top of the line ace type starting pitching. You can't go into a season hoping that Sean Manaea is going to be your best pitcher. Sean Manaea is not the best pitcher on a World Series team. He's not. And that's what, as good as we were last year, at the end, the Dodgers pitching is what got them over the hump. So we definitely have to go out. We have to make sure that we make a move and we bring in some legitimate, real, top of the line arms via trade. There's some big time free agents out there. I'm not going to break all that down right now. That's for another pod, but we got to make sure we do something. Chavez and Hefner, you got to go. Bring back Pete. Bring back Sugar. These guys have both proven that they can perform in New York. There's a lot to be said for that. Might be time to move on from Jeff. Might be time to move on from Squirrel. Vientos cannot be my starting third baseman. Vientos cannot be my designated hitter. I love Vientos. I was a huge Vientos guy. I've always pulled for that guy. Last year, his playoff performance was fantastic. I thought this year he was going to just absolutely splash on the scene and become a legit, look at this guy as one of the better third basemen in baseball, especially at the plate. Defensively, there's a lot to be desired, but I felt like he was getting better last year. Like, you saw the work he's putting in with Lindor. He's always had a strong arm. He seemed like he was picking it a little bit better. Definitely not great, but we see, hey, another year of improvement for the defensive end. He comes out and the bat is never able to find its way. He had one time where he got a little bit hot at maybe the beginning of September, late August. Other than that, the bat was not good. He gets hurt. He misses some time, and the defense is just bad. He's not a major league third baseman. You cannot have him over there sooner or later. It's going to bite you. And then Brent Beatty, he is more than just a competent third baseman. He's a very good third baseman. And then he shows you this year that he has a major league bat. So I think that he's your third baseman of the future. And that leaves you wondering, what exactly is the role for Vientos? And I think it needs to be on another team. I think we need to trade him out of here, and we need to get whatever we can get for him. And we need to address the DH position with, a proven bat. And that's along with bringing back Pete. And that's with, Soto and Lindor doing what they're doing. Now, there are some reports coming out that Soto and Lindor had a little bit of beef early in the season. Maybe not necessarily beef, but just clashing personalities, as Lindor is very jovial, very friendly. Soto a little bit more shy, a little bit more reserved. Giovanni Johnson, I totally agree with you. P. Alonso has to get re-signed. I don't even think that's a non-negotiable. Homegrown, had a monster year, has shown that he can play in this market. I mean, just get it done. Like I said, you're not going to, hey, Pete, you're not getting 10 years from anybody. Mets, pay him a little bit for time served. Give him 5 years. 5 for 30. 5 at 30. 5 for 150. I think everybody says yes to that deal. Uncle Stevie, step in. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Get Boris out of the equation. Stevie, Pete, get him in a room. Lock the doors. Don't let him out until he's signed. Giovanni, I appreciate you coming out here and showing some love. But, Soto and Lindor, supposedly there's some sort of rift. I mean, if that's the case, I think people make a bigger deal out of things like that than need be. I think in baseball, out of all the, major sports, that probably matters the least. And I think that, they seemed like they were doing okay to me as far as the personalities. And I think that guys don't need to be best friends. They don't need to be exactly alike as far as how they handle everything, as long as they produce. Juan Soto produced. Lindor was not his best version of himself, but he was still one of the better shortstops in all of baseball. They say that Marte is like the go-between, that he's, some people would say the real captain. I think maybe Soto said that at the same point. And, maybe he ends up coming back. But I mean, can he be a hitting coach? Because Marte played pretty well this year, man. I don't know. As my fourth outfielder, am I okay with Marte being my fourth outfielder? I'm not sure about that. Chat, what do you think? But it's going to be interesting all season for the Mets. They have to address the pitching. I think that's super clear. I think that Stearns even said as much in his after the season, press conference. And so, yeah, man, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, they really address the starting pitching. That clearly is the huge gap there. And then you get some interesting decisions when it comes to who do you bring back and who do you move on from in the bullpen. Like I said, Sugar's got to come back. As my man Giovanni said, I agree. Pete Alonso has to get re-signed. Giovanni also says that it is Soto's first year on the team, and they'll work it out. I hope so. I believe you're right. I do. I don't even think there's that much for them to work out, but I think that even if you're coming over from the Yankees to the Mets, it's just such a pressure-packed situation, and there's a certain, heaviness that comes with that jersey just because of the fan base and the amount of, we've seen Jason Bays. We've seen Mo Vaughns. We've seen a lot of guys, even some of the guys like the Lindors of the world and the Carlos Beltrans of the world, who ended up being great Mets and having great seasons for the Mets. That first season, they struggled. And no way did I ever think that Soto was going to go the way of Jason Bay. But at the beginning of the season this year, it was looking a little rough. But he ends up having a monster year, and what is still would be considered a down year for his standards, and he's 26. Soto is the least of my worries. Stearns, let's get out there. Let's get some starters. Let's get out there and make sure that we go ahead and throw these young players out there if they're ready to play, especially the arms. And let's get a legitimate second baseman, defensively and offensively. Let's get a legitimate center fielder. Tyrone Taylor. Yeah, if Tyrone Taylor's your fourth outfielder, I don't know if Marte can be. But I think Giovanni also makes another good point where he says the contract's a lot of pressure. Exactly, man. You become the highest paid player in the history, the biggest contract in the history of baseball and all that. I don't care who you are. That's a lot. That's a lot. But unfortunately, this team, throughout the year, they just weren't able to come up with the moments. Even the guys who had really good years statistically, they just weren't able to have those big moments in the most important times. Pitchers, hitters, everybody, including, listen, I'm trying to think. I would say that Diaz was probably one of the most clutch players for us this season. A lot of other guys had, good moments, but there was a lot of times where, as a fan, you were watching and you were like, okay, this is the time. We need the big hit right now. And, that's why we didn't come back from a game being down by over 5 until very late in the season. And that's why we didn't come back after, trailing in the 9th. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it was all season, but for the vast majority of the season. Wasted year, tough year, and we'll see what happens next year. The eternal feeling and life of a Mets fan. Let's talk Jets. Jets go down to Miami on Monday night, and they hold Miami to 3 on the very first draft, and then we have a drive. We're moving the ball down the field, matriculating the ball down the field. The run game looks fantastic. We're opening up holes for Brees. Braylon is running, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, knocking guys over. We seem like we can't be stopped. Braylon Allen gets handed the ball. He breaks a tackle. He gets up the middle. As he's being tackled, he tries to get those last few yards, those last few inches and get into the end zone. And the ball gets punched out. And it's Miami ball. And right then and there, it's just like, again, I try not to be this guy, man, but it's kind of hard not to say same old Jets. I mean, we look fantastic in that opening drive, and it ends like that with a turnover at the goal line, and it's just the air is let out of the balloon. And I know that Jets fans all across the country, all across the world, were just like me, just like, I was watching the game with my 9-year-old son, and even he gets that deflation of just like, there's no like, man, all right, but hey, we ran the ball well. We're gonna run the ball. No, you just know that it just, what we gonna do, man? What are we gonna do? How bad is it gonna get? And the Jets end up losing the game. Of course, they get back into it and make you feel good at some point. But that fumble on the first drive, you just knew that the Jets were going to Jets that game. That's what was going to happen. We were going to Jets that game. And they always give you that little bit of hope, or at least they often do. I can't even say they always. Some games, they give you no hope ever. And as a franchise for the last, what is this, 14 years? There's only been a few of those games where when it got to December, where you still felt like there was a chance. Most of the time by then, it's pretty clear that, this Jets team isn't going to do anything at all this year. There will be no playoffs. There will be no fighting for a playoff spot late in the year or anything like that. And it's 4 weeks in, and we already know that about this team. We probably knew that 2 weeks in. We definitely knew it 3 weeks in. 4 weeks in, it's just an absolute foregone conclusion that this Jets team will be probably picking in, the first 10, first 5 of next year's draft. And they will continue to be a laughingstock. I convinced myself that with, a good defense and Justin Fields taking care of the ball, a good offensive line, a dominant running game, and new head coach Aaron Glenn, that the Jets were going to be able to, come out here and possibly, dare I say, contend for a playoff spot, win 7 or 8. Then, if things go right, maybe 9, maybe 10 games. Nah. 0-4, the percentages of them, winning anything, getting to any sort of playoffs or competing for any sort of division are just like, so minuscule. And when you watch this team, there is a lot of the same old shit we saw under Saleh. Same shit we saw under Saleh. Stupid penalties, inability to get, stops in big moments, inability to make adjustments on the fly. It's just disgusting. Giovanni asks, what do I think about Aaron Glenn? Yo, man, I like Aaron Glenn. The fact that we haven't been able to figure out the penalties part, I don't understand at all. I don't understand. This is like going back to Rex Ryan days. We commit stupid penalties. What is going on here? But what I do know is that the defense, Steve Wilkes, I would fire him right now. Get him out of here. He sucks. I'm sorry, but the defense, it just doesn't look good. I'm no guy who can sit here and say we're playing these schemes. We should be playing these schemes. We're doing this on third down. We should be doing that. But I can tell you this: I've watched football for a long time, and sometimes you just see that, man, something about the way that we're set up, the defenses that we're calling, when we are choosing to blitz, not blitz, zone, man, we're not confusing the other team at all. This is not just a lack of execution by our players, like they're always in the best positions and they're just not doing what they're supposed to do. Listen, has there been some suspect tackling this year? Yes. And I guess, all he can do is put the guys in position to make the tackles. But at the end of the day, when you really look at it, man, the defense, man, they don't seem like they're being coached up and schemed up on a top-notch level. They just don't. And so I think that has to do with the defensive coordinator. You look at his recent history, short stints, some of them with, great NFL minds, the Shanahans of the world, and one season and you're out of here. So what does that say? I don't know. That doesn't necessarily always tell the whole story. But so far, as the Jets defensive coordinator, I think he's looked horrible. And I think Aaron Glenn, if you're a defensive coach, you just came off, years of being a very successful defensive coordinator. You can't let this kid, I understand you don't want to, go ahead and push the panic button, have a knee jerk reaction just yet. But man, think about it, dog. Like, if at some point you got to say, I'm taking the reins, I'm calling the plays. And at that point, if you're going to do that, you might as well just go ahead and fire this guy. This guy's been a head coach in this league. He's been a defensive coordinator for years. If you step in and say, I'm taking over the play calling, it might as well just go ahead and just, Braylon Allen fumbles, then he gets hurt. I hate having big time, important skill players return kicks. I have a memory that goes back to Wayne Corbett. And that was a season with a lot of promise that immediately seemed like it was just doomed with Wayne Corbett getting hurt, returning a kick. And Braylon Allen gets hurt, and it looks like he's going to go on the IR, which means he's going to miss at least 4 weeks. The hit was gross. I love football. I love watching football. I have a son who's a talented young athlete. He plays baseball, football, and basketball and excels in all three. I really hope he plays baseball or basketball. I say to him, like, yo, why you want to play a sport where a guy, runs his head into your legs? And that's like, that's what he's trying to do. Like, that's the object of the game. Great to watch. But if you had your choice, I don't see why you would choose that one over them. And, Braylon Allen, he looks like he's going to be out for extended time. Again, I don't get putting these guys in that type of harm's way. And then the Jets show a little promise in the first half. Isaiah Williams comes out and he fumbles the opening kickoff of the second half. We're down by 7. The Jets feel like they got some momentum going. We get the ball. Aaron Glenn even said that as he was, going off the field. They're asking about the mistakes. He's like, at the end of the day, we're down by 7 and we're coming out. We get the ball. He immediately gives it right back to them. They immediately score a touchdown. Great. I mean, come on, yo. I don't get it. It's just such a Jets thing to do. And then Isaiah Williams later on, he makes a fair catch on a punt with his feet on the 2-yard line. Now, it's back in the day, it used to be heels on the 20 at one point, heels on the 10. Some people now even say like heels on the 5 just because these punters are so good at sticking it there. But, he caught it on the 2. And then turned around and looked back like, oh, shit. The end zone is really close. I probably shouldn't have done that. Come on, man. I hate to keep saying it, but that's some same old Jets type shit. The defense, they can't stop a nosebleed. Shout to Bart Scott. I mean, they're out here and they're just like, yo, we're going to play zone and have guys right in front of us make catches, or we're going to play man and have guys run past us and we're going to hit them over the top. Tyreek is killing us. He ends up, smashing his leg into two different directions. I mean, just a disgusting, awful injury for him. And then, he goes out. And after that, it's like, okay, well, who's the next best receiver? Waddle. It's like the game plan was don't guard Tyreek. Tyreek was killing us. I don't understand how it's like how we're not paying more attention to him, how our game plan is not putting more attention to Tyreek. He goes out of the game. Now Waddle is their best wide receiver. Oh, guess what? Nobody's paying attention to him either. Tua's hitting him. Tua's scrambling a little bit, finding him, bang. And Tyreek gets hurt. Horrible, horrible injury. And, you never root for anybody to get injured. Of course. But that doesn't mean I have to feel bad for the guy when he does get, no, or not even, no, I feel bad that he got injured. But I mean, Tyreek, check into his history, not a great guy. So I'm not like, it doesn't take away, I can feel bad that he got injured because I never want to see injury, but also at the same time, it doesn't take away or make me change my feelings on what kind of guy he is. Similar way I feel to another world event that's happened recently. But yeah, man. At the end of the day, when you watch a team defensively that can never get the big stop, when the Jets had that amazing touchdown return by Will McDonald. He jumps over the lineman, doesn't make contact, blocks the kick, runs it back 4-6, and the Jets are up. I looked up at the score. I'm talking about the game, obviously, at the end against the Bucs. I looked up at the score, and I'm like, 1 minute and 48 seconds, and Baker's getting the ball back? Nah, man. He's definitely going to get them down in the field goal range at least. And that's the way you feel with this defense, because they can't get a stop in the biggest moments. They give up long third downs, 3rd and 10 plus, 3rd and 19 sometimes, which even though that was some bullshit, we're going to get to that. But they can't get off the field in the big moments, or at all, it seems, sometimes. And they're definitely not going to turn the ball over. This Jets team, once again, same as under Saleh, new coach, new regime, we can't force turnovers. In fact, the Jets are -7. When there are fumbles, when there are balls on the ground, we don't get to them. We don't recover them. They don't bounce our way. But when Justin Fields, who, as many things as he has done well this year, he needs to take better care of the ball when he's out there, when he's running around. Justin Fields got to be better. Giovanni, peace out, brother. Appreciate you very, very much. Appreciate you, sir. I know it's getting a little bit late over there on the East Coast. I have moved from the East Coast out to the great state of Arizona, so it's only 6:30 here. But yeah, man, Will's got to go. He's got to go, and this Jets team, as badly as they played, they still would have had a chance to win this game if it wasn't for the absolutely criminally horrible officiating that went down in this game. Now, if you watch me on any of the other shows I do, on Nick on Knicks, when I feature on a couple other shows, when I do He Did This to Me, the show about a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Knicks, Mets, and Jets fans with me and my dad, you know that I hate referees. I don't like referees. I don't go to the zebra section in the zoo. I don't shop at Foot Locker. I don't like them. I coach my kid in all 3 sports, and I beef with all the referees, and I have been since they were like 4 years old. Respectfully, though, I have good relationships with the good ones. But at the end of the day, man, when you take a step back and you look at the officiating in this game, it's egregious what happens to the Jets. You have Tua sliding so late that he kicks a defender in the legs that he's sliding in front of. Another guy who had already left his feet to tackle Tua then does everything he can to avoid him, but bumps his helmet with his forearm as he flies across him over top of him. Flags everywhere, laundry all over the field. But yet, when Justin Fields gets pulled down and tackled 10 yards, 5 yards at least, out of bounds, no flags at all. Fields popped up and Brees ran over there and looked at the ref and was coming at the ref like, yo, come on, man. With some of the other stuff you've called today, you're not calling that? You have Mason Taylor later in the game, goes down, is down for 2 seconds plus, and another guy comes and just jumps and hits him on the back, no flag. You have Tippmann on a play where the Jets get called for holding. He's right in the middle of the field, like literally could not be more centered in the field, and has a defensive player come and get his hands up and push his helmet off. He's a huge guy with long hair standing in the middle of the field like, yo, what is going on? No illegal hands to the face. And then you have the worst of them all, the offensive pass interference against Garrett Wilson that took away a touchdown. First of all, they said that he didn't catch the ball, so we would have had to challenge that because he actually indeed did get 2 feet down because he's Garrett Wilson. He makes a circus, just unbelievable catch later on in the game. But in that particular play, they call an offensive pass interference. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. The two guys are hand fighting. He touches the guy on the chest. He does not get an advantage at all. There's been a million videos on Twitter showing the OPI that was called against, the defensive pass interference that was called against Sauce the week before against Mike Evans, which was much more of an OPI than this one against Garrett Wilson was, and just a million other plays where it's just not called. As Garrett Wilson said after the game, he said, "I watch football, and that's not an OPI. They don't call that." He took the high road and said, "I guess just next time I'll have to not do anything and just leave no doubt." But that's bullshit. It was a bullshit call. It was a terrible call. The referees were absolutely horrible in this game, and it changed the game. Fields getting tackled 5 yards out of bounds, and that not being called, that was a huge call. Totally changes the game. The Tua slide totally changes the game. That offensive pass interference, you took a touchdown off the board. The referees got to be better, man. And, it gets to the point where they have such an effect on NFL games that it makes me not want to watch it at certain points. It's just like, I don't want to watch a whole game, and then at the end, there's just an egregious call, and that just changes the game. I mean, how many playoff games have we seen won or lost because of a bad call? I'm a firm believer that roughing and pass interference need to be reviewable, because though they are judgment calls to a certain extent, it's a lot easier to make that judgment at super slow-mo with a bunch of different angles. Come on, man. You got to get it. Hey, I don't want to slow the game down anymore, but what I do want is I want them to get it right. I will take a little bit more time if we get it right. And guys who put their entire lives and fans who put their entire lives don't have a call totally change the outcome of a game, of any game, let alone a playoff game to send you home. NFL, get that shit figured out. Come on, man. We got too much technology. We got too much ability to not get it right. But overall, man, listen, when you're the Jets and you play as bad as they did, you can't be out here and, feeling like you should have won a game. We got to be better. Sauce, not even basically, he said explicitly after the game the fact that the Jets don't get calls because they're historically bad. I get it. I feel that way too, Sauce, and I can't imagine being actually out there and feeling like one side has a version of whistle that you and your team just don't have. Garrett Wilson he's otherworldly. We need to throw him the ball more. You saw an animated exchange between him and Coach Glenn after he made that amazing catch for the touchdown, and I'm sure it was some version of, I need the ball more. I'm trying to win. Give me the ball more. And I agree. I think that in general, the offense needs to be opened up earlier. In the second half, we started letting Justin Fields throw the ball down the field more. I know we want to establish the run. I know we want to be a running team. But running on 3rd and 6, when you're trailing, that first drive of the season where you ran the ball every single play, and even on like 3rd and 11, you ran the ball. Nah, man. If we want to be a modern day NFL team, and we want to go out there and we want to try to win games, not just try not to lose games, we're going to have to push the ball down the field. And when in the second half, when they especially late in the third and in the fourth quarter, when they started letting Fields throw the ball down the field, he was throwing dots, and we were moving the ball. That has to start earlier. Defensively, now we're dealing with some serious injuries. Quincy, obviously. And, we got to figure out something with Tony Adams. Tony Adams is so bad. He's bad in coverage. He's a bad tackler. There was one point in the game against Miami where the running back, I think it may have been A-Chain, somebody had his feet, and he was trying to get away from him. Tony Adams came up running full speed and dove, and, the running back just did like this. Tony Adams flew past him. He couldn't even move his feet, and he made you totally whiff. Got to move on from him. Got to figure something else out. As far as Garrett is concerned, he's the man. Who's our number 2 receiver, man? Who is our number 2 receiver? At the end of the day, I don't think the Jets know. It's supposed to be Arian Smith. I mean, what does he have? 2 catches this year? The Jets at the end of the day, don't tell me it's Allen Lazard. Isaiah Williams, he's supposed to be a return specialist, but clearly there's nothing special about his ability to return or understand where he is on the field. The receiver room is missing something, and I don't know. You're not going to be a good enough team to go out there and trade for some good receivers. So this is probably what we're going to have for the rest of the season. Got to figure out a way to get some turnovers, man. -7 is not going to get it done. Got to figure out this year whether or not Fields is the guy. Got to open up that offense a little bit earlier. Stop with all the fire Glenn talk. He's not going anywhere. I'm not sure if he's the guy. I never know. I've been hoodwinked and bamboozled and just overall tricked. It's October, right? October 1st. Trick or treat. Well, when you're a Jets fan, it seems like it's always trick. And I've been tricked enough times this year before. I'm not going to come out here and say I think this guy is the coach or this or that. Not going to do that. We're going to find out. We're going to see. It's kind of how I felt about this Mets team. I'm usually a guy that always finds a way to exude confidence and exude optimism, even with being a Mets, a Jets, and also a Knicks fan. Somehow, some way, I've still found a way to be pretty optimistic. Mets, by the end of this season, I just, was like, we'll see what we get. Going into the last series of the season, we'll see. Whether or not you tell me that, Aaron Glenn is a good coach or not, we'll see. And even if they have some success, you're going to have to show me, man. And you're going to have to prove it to me for a while before I believe it because I've been through too much. Knicks have their first game tomorrow in Abu Dhabi. The Knicks are, the healthiest of these franchises, the ones with the biggest aspirations. And, hey, man, Knicks fans, for a lot of us out there, and there is a lot of us that are Knicks fans, Mets fans, and Jets fans, Knicks, we need you. We could really use – this would be a great time to win your first championship in, over 40 years. 50, shit. What is it, 72, 80, 90, 2000, 20, yeah. This would be a good time. We could use that. It's your boy N.I.C, man. Thanks for rocking with me. If you were on the replay gang, comment. I promise you I will read your comment. I will reply. I do not promise it will be nice, but I will reply. Replay gang, make sure you hit that subscribe. I do this podcast. I do another podcast, Me and My Pops, where we talk Knicks, Mets, and Jets and just all the sports stories of the day. My dad also gives his big guy locks, which last season his record was unbelievable. If you rock with the big guy and you followed him on his big guy locks, you made a lot of money last season. And this year he started off 4-2, and we'll be coming out with a new episode on that on this Friday early evening for you East Coasters, late afternoon, and early afternoon for you West Coasters. And yeah, man, Nick on Knicks is about to be back in full swing as this Knicks season gets started. And just appreciate all the love, man. I've had so much fun doing this journey over the last couple of years. I've learned a lot. There's still a lot more for me to learn, and some big things coming up for sure. Some big things, tech-wise and equipment-wise. We getting there on a couple things. There's one thing in particular that we almost there that's going to totally change, just the overall viewer experience. And I just appreciate all the love. I appreciate, especially the people that interact and comment and just hit those likes, hit those subscribes on all the different platforms. Again, just really appreciate everybody. Follow me on everything. Independent Nick. That's Independent N-I-C, no K. Peace.
Hey!